And Chris, the Spurs are trying to be all set as they are now the favorites to land Lauri Markkanen if Utah decides to trade him. That is per Bovada. Also with the Spurs, and this connects back to Malik Monk, the Spurs are also reportedly interested in Darius Garland. That is from Sam Amico. And that isn't really bad in terms of Malik Monk because that's a landing spot. We've talked about Malik and Wembanyama. So if they're interested in Darius Garland, I would think that takes him out of the Malik Monk sweepstakes. So that would be one team. So Spurs, go get – hey, Darius Garland's a good player.
Yes.
Spurs, go get Darius Garland.
Yep.
But back to Lauri Markkanen, Chris.
Yes.
A name that we haven't talked about a lot. Now, earlier, really during the season when this conversation came up, you spoke about how Lauri Markkanen, maybe the fit wasn't perfect, or maybe there would be some redundancy with Sabonis. And I'm curious, and correct me if I'm wrong if you didn't say that.
I don't remember exactly saying. I wasn't as high as on Lauri as like I think Brendan's really high.
To give up the farm on him.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's a really good player. I think he's definitely benefiting from being the main guy out in Utah. I don't know if he's necessarily like a 25-point per game scorer, like an all-star every season, like kind of he's played like here recently. I just don't know if it's kind of, I mean, it's a different version of Kyle Kuzma. I think he's a better player than Kyle Kuzma, a lot more useful, but offensively, but I still think you have a lot of the same issues. I think you defensively, like he's not really solving your rim protection issue. He's a great fit on offense. He's a fantastic shooter. He's a great scorer in general. He'd fit in great on that side of the ball, but I don't necessarily know if that's going to be good enough to beat the Timberwolves in the playoffs.
Would you put Lauri Markkanen, and if both of these guys are made available, Lauri Markkanen and Cat, would you put them in the same category? Would you put one over the other in terms of their fit with the Kings?
They're probably about the same. I mean, yeah, they pretty much do the same thing, right? Like they're both the best shooting bigs in the NBA, and both probably put up around the same numbers. Cat's probably even a better defender or a better rebounder than Markkanen is. They're the same tier of player to me. I think they would have the same level of impact, which is definitely still something. I just don't know, especially like considering what you might have to give up for Lauri. I mean, Utah and freaking Danny Ainge more specifically.
Right.
That man he literally does not lose trades. He makes it a sticking point to say, no, if we're going to do a trade, I'm going to receive endless draft picks. As many as you can give us, we will take. So I just kind of feel like doing a deal for Lauri where I think he's making like $24 million a year. He's only making an 18. Incredible contract.
He's only making 18, but it is
broken.
The one reason they might move him, as much as they're saying they don't want to, because everyone's going to say that right now to keep leverage, the one reason they might move him is because it is an expiring deal.
Yeah. And who knows if he's going to re-up there, right?
I don't know why he would.
Right. Except for they can offer him, hey, you can still be the number one. You can still be the face of the Utah Jazz.
Yeah.
But I don't know where you're going if Lauri Markkanen's your best player. It feels like, maybe a 10 seed is about the best you can do depending on who you surround him with. But, he's good. He's not phenomenal. I don't think he's made an all-NBA team. But, yeah, he's definitely an all-star caliber player. I don't think he's necessarily a solution. I think he definitely is a really big talent upgrade, but ultimately I still think if you're hoping Lauri Markkanen's going to come in and change everything, I just don't think that's going to happen. I mean, I also feel the same way about Kyle Kuzma and everybody else as well. But
so you don't think one move, okay, let's say if they find a way to get Lauri Markkanen and you still keep Keegan, which I don't know that the Jazz would allow that, but let's just play the game.
Sure.
Hey, here's 15 first-round picks, whatever, and we're getting Lauri Markkanen. We are keeping Malik Monk, and we still have Keegan Murray.
Yeah.
That doesn't move.
I mean, that's different. Yeah, that's completely different. I'm just viewing a Lauri, Fox, Sabonis, and then scraps. Like, that's what I would.
You're assuming that you're assuming that Keegan is gone.
Yeah, pretty much
in a deal
Lauri trade
for Lauri.
Yes, yeah, because like I said, that man Danny Ainge is a monster, and there's just no way that you're going to trade, especially if Lauri's on an $18 million contract. Like that's ultimate leverage for Utah. They're going to say like you quite literally will not find a better deal in basketball today than this all-star potential all-NBA level
player. It's a
player.
1-year deal though.
It is. It definitely is, but still the ability to have him on that deal and then potentially sign him moving forward. I think there's still, I could be wrong unless he enters free agency, but if you're going to re-sign him, there might be a cap on exactly how much you can elevate his salary to a certain level. So I think there might be some more that goes into that. But I still think that you're not going to find a guy. He's getting paid less than Kyle Kuzma. So I just don't know if you could realistically get Lauri Markkanen for anything that could possibly even potentially be viewed as at market value. I think you're going to have to overpay to get him because also Utah is not incentivized. The only, like you said, the only real incentive they have is he might walk. And even then Utah is probably saying, okay, so we go from 500 or a couple games above to, now we're officially kind of in a rebuild. And again, we have 700 draft picks to rebuild with.
23 points, 8 rebounds, 2 assists on 48% shooting. That was Lauri Markkanen's averages in 2023, 2024. But if you've been really big on, and it's the same with, I think the Jeremy Grant situation. Hey, I don't know how that translates when you're just cooking on a bad team. I don't know how that I mean, Colin Sexton had ridiculous numbers this season, and I don't know what to really do with that. Is that 17 points on a Kings team and 5 rebounds because Sabonis is going to swallow up all the rebounds? I think that if you can, and we'll get into Malik Monk a little bit later, if you can keep Malik Monk, and let's say Keegan is in the deal, so I don't think you would run. It would be more than Keegan, so it might be Kevin Huerter too.
Right, yeah, it probably would be.
Right, the same type of deal that we talked about for Karl-Anthony Towns and just whatever picks that you want to throw out. So you still have Harrison Barnes in this. I just don't know Harrison Barnes' value. And you're not going to get rid of him just to get rid of him.
Yeah, no.
So if a team doesn't want him, and now you have, I guess, a weird logjam of wings, right? Then that becomes a conversation of, okay, is it time to move Harrison Barnes to the bench because he's still on the team? Because at that point, let's say they take Keegan and they take Kevin Huerter and a bunch of picks. You have De'Aaron Fox, Sabonis, Lauri Markkanen, and I'm just saying Harrison Barnes' name. I don't know that he would start.
He has to.
Right, he has to.
Who is taking his spot?
And then now we're back to the Keon conversation, unless Malik Monk stays.
Unless Monk stays, or I don't know what you do with 13 at that point. I mean, I don't know if you've kept 13, if 13 was sent off in the Markkanen trade or anything like that.
Probably. Knowing Danny Ainge, probably.
I mean, again, this kind of comes to where my mega trade spawned from is I just feel like you end up filling one hole and creating another. And I think that's where the Kings have to figure out how to get creative with their contracts. I mean, Monty talked about when he signed all of these mid-level guys and, brought in Chris Duarte, he talked about the flexibility of it. He's like, these are also very tradable contracts. Like these are you want a ton of 4 to, I think it's probably now like $10 or $12 million contracts because those are ones that you can just, okay, hey, you need a sweetener. We can throw this in there. Oh, we need to bring 3 guys to equal 1. Here's Trey Lyles, Sasha, and Colby Jones, Kessler Edwards, whatever, and that equals 12 mil. So I think, you got to try and get creative. Try and figure out how you could, my Kuzma trade is essentially a salary dump. You got Davion Mitchell, you've got Trey Lyles, you've got Duarte. Throw the 13th pick in there. Can that get you something useful because you're really not losing a ton of impact player? You're not losing your core players, and I know core kind of gets stretched the more and more conversations we end up having, but I just kind of think that that's the only way for the Kings to truly take another leap is by retaining what they have, but also adding to it, if that's somehow possible.
From the 916, do you think Markkanen is better than Fox or Sabonis? I think they're on the same tier, and to your point, I wouldn't want to overpay for same tier guys.
Yeah.
But you're adding someone else. I get you don't want to overpay, but you're adding someone else at that tier.
Right. It's the conversation of would you rather be more top heavy or more balanced? And
right.
I think that's, again, the balance that no pun intended, that's the balance that the Kings are trying to find is I think they kind of want it all. They want to have their cake and eat it
Everybody
too. Because I think at the end of the day, that's the difference between a really good team and a champion. Again, like the Celtics, they shipped off Marcus Smart. They've shipped off tons of different guys, and they still managed to retain what is actually the thing that makes them really great. And so that's kind of what the Kings need to figure out, man. It's a really, really tough task.
I mean, the elephant in the room to me, Chris, is that I'm just not sure how you achieve that and keep Keegan Murray. I don't see how you do it.
I mean, if we're talking about top level star, yeah. I mean, you can't.
Well, that's what I'm saying. And if we're not talking about that to our last segment, then what are we talking about?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's, and that's what I'm saying. I think it's trying to build out the team then. And that's the route that you have to try and go. And then, you got to hope for some luck. I mean, I definitely think that's going to have to be the only way that the Kings get to a finals or maybe even to a conference finals is you see what happened with the Pacers. Like sometimes ball's got to bounce your way and off the floor as well. And I definitely think, that's going to be where the Kings are going to have to kind of get lucky is they're not going to have the overall star power. Even if they do build out a pretty good roster, they're going to have to probably get some help in the postseason. Cause I just think that's how it is. I think that's how it is with everybody. It's not just a specific Kings situation. Everybody needs some form of injury luck. Tyrese talked about it. It's just as important as anything else in the playoffs is just being healthy, being the team that's still standing.
And that leads